Okay, with Joel Brown, When It's Over is the short film. You're from Washington D.C., correct?
Yes, I am.
How's the film scene in Washington D.C.?
Um, it's pretty good. I mean, it's no New York or LA, but I do feel like there are a lot of independent film makers as well as a lot of up and coming actors in this area. So I'm grateful to be able to have used a lot of local talent when I was making my short film. In addition to that, there's like a lot of local film festivals, both for local artists as well as national and international festivals that come to DC. So there are a lot of opportunities, as well as a pretty vibrant theater community as well.
Great. So your cast obviously very important for your film. The two leads. Where did you find them?
I found them online. I found them on the website. I'm forgetting the name of it now. Um, but basically, like you post your stuff and you say what roles are available. People were able to provide video auditions. And when we started pre-production for this film, it was also like right after COVID, so there was still a lot of precaution in terms of getting a bunch of people in one room. So we did a lot of the audition process over Zoom and video calls and got audition tapes that way.
Oh, so this was done a few years ago.
Yes, we started working on it in 2021, and then finished everything, I think, in 23 or 24. So it was a lot of start and stop, but we were able to get it all done.
So this you wrote the script as well. It's a 30-minute short. So it's kind of I call these like the epic short films. It's really about kind of like the minutia or the nuance of relationships. Where did this idea come from for you?
Yeah, so the first short that I made, or I guess the first version was also called When It's Over, and it was I guess a little autobiographical because it was after I had gone through a breakup, and I was kind of using the screenwriting process to kind of process everything that had happened. Um, but I thought that there was a really rich idea in that the film was kind of based on not a relationship as it exists, but kind of how people deal with the relationship after it ends. And I thought that there was more that I could do with it creatively. And so this was a non-autobiographical version of that idea where you have these characters that have broken up but are still kind of in each other's space, aren't really willing to move on. One is more willing to move on than the other. And I just thought there was a lot of human exploration I could do with that concept and with that theme. And I thought it was really relatable because, everyone has had breakups, people deal with them in different ways. And I thought it would be a little bit more unique than telling a love story of like what happens when it's over.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's a good kind of because yeah, people like they don't really kind of cut the cord, so to speak,
Right.
like in a very like some of them do, and I think that's more healthy, I guess, right? But then there's always that dysfunction where like you know the person so well. There's like you have that sexual kind of chemistry still, supposedly, and uh, and so there's that comfortability, but then there's also that kind of bitterness, I guess, too, right? So and there's loneliness. I guess loneliness is the biggest factor, right?
Yeah, and I think that's something that the characters Aisha and Terrence are kind of dealing with, where I think Terrence kind of is still comfortable in the relationship as it existed, and Aisha probably wants to move on, but is less willing to do so, probably because of that comfort that she has, that this is someone that she already knows really well, someone that she feels like she can be herself with. And so like making that decision to actually cut things off completely is something that she struggles with.
Yeah, and some people get married because of that.
That's that's true. That is true.
So this is like kind of like, was there a long, like a feature version of this script? Is there a longer kind of version?
No, this was the version. When we did the premiere of it, I had a few people kind of say to me, like, "Man, I really enjoyed that. I kind of wished it was longer. Like, I still wanted to know what was going to happen next."
Yeah.
But no, that was the complete version of it. And like you said, I think it was probably a bit longer than like a typical 10-minute short. But I just felt like there was like a little bit more there that I wanted to ex be able to explore both characters fully instead of just choosing one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, both of them are kind of fleshed out, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, so then in terms of like getting them to, did you do, like you said, you did most of it on Zoom? When they came in, were you worried about the chemistry? Because obviously chemistry was key.
Yeah, so after I decided on the cast, I kind of met with each of them individually to just kind of like talk a little bit more about the idea, about the character, answer any questions that they had. Um, and I think it was a unique situation because I wrote it and was also directing it. So it was an opportunity for me to kind of explain my thinking, my vision, and also just to kind of answer any questions they had about their characters. And then we were able to meet all together. We did like a table read. The whole cast is very small, so it was only 5 people. Um, and they were allowed to kind of communicate with each other, exchange numbers. I'm sure that they did things like run scripts without run lines without me there. And so the chemistry was kind of a bit more natural as opposed to like them meeting on set. Um, and so yeah, I think with Terrence and Aisha, they were both um, they both had acting experience and they both felt very comfortable in that role. And so I was lucky to have worked with them. Both Daquan and Alexandria were a joy to work with.
Do you use that kind of black and white kind of setting where they're like talking directly to the camera, right?
Yeah.
Where did that idea come from?
Um, I think probably a couple places. I mean, I think a part of it is probably from like the mockumentary style that you see in a lot of like um sitcoms where
Yeah.
like, The Office, Parks and Rec, things like that. I also remember seeing something similar to that in 500 Days of Summer, which kind of blended a bunch of different types of narrative within that film. Very unique movie. Um, and so, I'm also a huge Scorsese fan, and he uses a lot of narrative in his films. And so I thought it was a way of separating the narrative of what you see happening and also allowing you a little bit more space into each of these characters' thinking, with the assumption that they are discussing this relationship retrospectively, right? So all that goes into the whole idea of what happens when it's over. How do people think about what they did, how they've coped, what mistakes they may have made? And it kind of leaves it open to the audience to decide, who do they agree or disagree with, and
Yeah.
and really even is there a right or wrong in this whole situation? Um, and so some of those conversations having that with people that viewed the film was also really interesting just to kind of see like which characters they attached to and which ones they didn't. And I tried to leave that open without answering the question for the audience. So being able to have them kind of talk through their emotions, I think, was another way of connecting the audience with who these people were.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I like those scenes with the black and white. They're really cool because it's kind of a very modern film, right? Like they're all kind of using their devices
Yeah.
uh while they're having conversations with people, which is common. And like it's a this is this generation's film for sure. And guys are still guys, I guess, right? So you're always going to look. kind of lean to, I guess when you're watching a film like this, you're going to lean towards your sex in your perspective of being a man, I guess, for us, I guess, for me, right? But I like the way you fleshed out these female characters. Was that difficult for you, like kind of having more balance? Because obviously you are a man, right? So
I am.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. I think it is something that requires a little bit more attention when you're writing the opposite sex. But trying to, I mean, I think writing characters always comes from a place of empathy and understanding. Um, I have a sister who I'm very close with. I have a lot of female friends that I talk about relationships with. So trying to kind of tap into, what their perspective is based on the conversations I've had, based on people taking a look at the script and kind of telling me like, oh, okay, well, this makes sense, maybe this doesn't. Um, and yeah, I tried to make the characters unique enough so that they weren't representative of their gender, but just who these people are. And I think you have each both Aisha and Terrence have um, a juxtaposition, right? Because then there's the Will character who Aisha starts dating, who's very different than Terrence. Terrence also has a best friend who's a woman, Monique, and she's
yeah.
also very different from Aisha. So I think those other supporting characters also help to kind of not make it Terrence is men and Aisha is women, but to make it just like these are people who are not necessarily representing their entire sex.
Was it the actresses playing the roles have any questions for you or kind of suggestions? I'm just curious.
Say that again?
The actresses, like within the dialogue and the story arcs, did they have any kind of points to make, or they have any suggestions for you, or no?
I think one of the questions that came up was whether Monique actually wanted to be with Terrence herself, um, which was which was interesting. And I tried to write their scenes in a way that showed that they were platonic friends.
Yeah,
Because I didn't want to add any aspect of like, oh, here's this woman who's secretly in love with Terrence and she's jealous of this whole thing, and like that comes with its own bag of stereotypes. So I was trying to avoid that. And so I think the way that Kathlena, the actress who played Monique, I think she played it in a way that was very casual, very humorous. She was a lot of people's favorite character watching this
yeah,
movie because she had a lot of the jokes in the script. But I think that was one of the big questions, and I think for Alexandria, who played Aisha, she also had some questions about just like Aisha's motivation, what is her struggles. I know that she indicated like this is a very different person than myself, and so I want to understand where she's coming from and kind of um, you know what is her priority here. And I think it's also important to note that these characters are like in their mid to late 20s, which I think
yeah,
is very that informs a lot of how they act in this
yeah,
way, where like they're kind of what I would call like new adults, and trying to understand how to navigate relationships while still figuring out who they are.
yeah,
Um, so I think a lot of the questions that the female actresses were kind of around motivations.
yeah, yeah. It's a great little film. It's a great idea. Like when it's over, like it's in the title, right? So
Yeah, right.
yeah, and you kind of want them in a way, you in a weird, you kind of want them to get back together.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, well, I guess that's a question that I would have for you having seen it. Like what did you, because you talked about them getting back together, like did you think that that would is what was best for them, or is it just kind of
No,
like as
no.
a viewer you're watching it and thinking Oh, well, the couple always kind of gets together at the end. Like, what was?
I think you get emotionally involved and you kind of like these people and you're like, oh, they could be together, but then in hindsight, it's kind of a mixed bag because it's in hindsight you're like, yeah, maybe she can move on. She can do better.
Yeah, I could see
But
that.
yeah,
And I also think Terrence is a character that has, and I tried to hit on this in different ways throughout the film, but like he's kind of just comfortable and has not shown any real sense of a desire to grow any
yeah,
more than he
exactly.
already
Yeah,
has.
yeah,
And so I think that's a part of kind of like, all right, well, if they get together, what does that look like in the future? Like, are they going to then stagnate each other?
yeah,
Um, and I think for Aisha, Will represents an idea of like what growing up looks like,
yeah.
but it becomes clear to the audience that she's probably just not that into him.
Okay, so you get the
And so
first.
yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go finish your point.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I wanted that question to kind of come to people and think about like, what is what is right for you versus who is right for you. Um, and what happens when those two things conflict? Like, do you just choose one? Is it better for her maybe to just be with neither of them, and those are questions that I didn't want to answer for the audience.
Gotcha. All right, so I was just going to say, so you did your first film was called When It's Over, right? And then your second film's called When It's Over. Is your third film going to be called When It's Over?
I think I do think that there is probably more that I could do with this series, but it hasn't really come to me.
Yeah,
So I might be moving on from that. And honestly, I've just been trying to think about more ideas. I really like the concept of just like human interaction and relationship. And I've been kicking around a few ideas in my head, but I haven't really settled on one. Maybe something around like um, relationships that aren't romantic, right? Best friends relationships or a relationship between a parent and their child. Um, I think there's a lot there, especially in the short film format. I feel like you can kind of like delve into these characters without having to tell B and C stories, and you just kind of focus on the specific narrative.
yeah.
Um, so I have not quite decided what the next project is going to be, but there are a lot of different ideas kind of swirling around in my head right now.
Oh, so you're not prepared for your next film then, I guess.
No, not right now. Not right now.
Gotcha. You're just seeing how this one turns out. Is filmmaking something you're like? Is that your passion? Is that what you're focused on?
Um, I would say that's a good question. I do love film. I think I really love the writing process. I was originally like, I studied journalism in school,
Yeah,
and I've done a lot of different writing in that perspective rather. But I think when the idea comes, I'll be able to like kind of go, and it's hard for me to manufacture. Um, Art without really feeling that surge of energy. I've also, in the past couple of years, like taken some acting classes. Just, I remember hearing about this once. I don't even remember where I heard it, but like it's beneficial as a director to kind of understand the acting perspective.
sure.
And I spent some time doing like theater and stuff when I was younger. It's something that I've always enjoyed, and so I do think I want to like dive into that a little bit more. And I think it also helps me to spark ideas by being able to like play different characters. And so, I am just kind of exploring my creativity right now.
Gotcha. Well, dude, if you're making films like this, it's good to know the acting process for sure, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And just like being able to speak their language when you're directing them.
Yeah,
And it also helps with screenwriting, I think.
gotcha. So But so you're just looking for some ideas in the future, and then you're going to make another film.
Yeah, that's the plan.
All right, man. Well, congratulations on the success so far. I hope it does well for you. And yeah, like I said, it's got some interesting ideas. It's there are comedic elements, but it's got a kind of drama perspective to it.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's fantastic. And yeah, I think you're not that everybody is not great. It just but she kind of stands out. Is it Alexandria Moreland?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she stands out in the film. She's got some
Oh,
chops.
wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
she and Daquan were both like I said, just amazing to work with, really professional, and their chemistry helped to really put the film together.
All right, let's talk soon when you make your next film.
Will do. Thank you so much.